It's less than 2 years before Ghanaians go to the polls to elect a new president who replaces Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo. But there are a lot of processes that have to be put in place before that big day, before the elections of 7th December or 7th November 2024 to replace Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo. On Citi, we have crafted this show where we are going to guide you and walk with you into the elections of 2024. It is going to be exciting, it's going to be tense, but before the main elections of 2024, the primaries of the major political parties, the National Democratic Congress, which is the party in opposition hoping to win the elections, and the governing New Patriotic Party. Both parties have done 8 years, 8 years, and then 8 years. Now, one of them is hoping to break that 8-year cycle. My name is Umaru, Sanda, Amadu, and I'm doing the Situation Room on Citi with Bernard Avle. Bernard?
Thank you, Umaru, Sanda. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Bernard. It's an exciting thing to cover elections. For journalists, that's like our mecca, isn't it? We go cover and come back.
My God, it's amazing. So as you said, I think it's 18 months or a little bit more till that big day. Indeed, I think the main deadline is 7th January 2025.
Yes, that's when the presidency is.
So you have a new parliament and then you have a new president. So you have multiple elections happening between that time and now, which is why we are here today.
And of course, Citi has done this before. Bernard has been covering the election since 2004 or
my first proper election was 2004. In the 2000 election, I was a student, so I wasn't really covering.
Okay, but that was Kufuor's election.
Yes, that was the
Kufuor
election, yes.
And then you covered that. Then 2008.
2004, Mills Kufuor was my first. 2008 as well. 2012, then 2016. 2020.
Interesting, a lot of experience. I did 2008 as a student at the time. I wasn't sure what I was doing, but 2012 here, I remember I was the first reporter to speak to you in 2012 on election day from the Nungwa area at the time, Krowa constituency. But of course, we are going to do all the analysis for you. We're going to do all the discussions here, help you make sense of the big stories. But why the Situation Room?
Well, because there's a lot of things happening. So elections are moving parts. So you have primaries coming up, you have campaigns going on, then you have events that are around civil society, electoral commission, trying to pass things through parliament. Now, we believe that all those things have to be brought together into one place to give people a clear sense of what's happening. So we are bringing all of those things into the situation.
Into the situation. So if you love politics, you are someone who wants to follow the political stories of Ghana, the Situation Room on Citi is where to be. And of course, the big stories will be discussed and analyzed here. When we come back, I'll tell you what's on the agenda for today. You're welcome back. The agenda is the road to 2024 on the Situation Room on Citi. So in the Situation Room on Citi, all the analysis coming up. Big two political parties. Of course, we do know that we are in a multi-party democracy, but other parties haven't done much to deserve to be on this particular platform. I remember in 2008, PNC did so well with 4 MPs in Parliament. CPP had 3. After that, they've all disappeared. Bernard, the parties to look out for would be the NDC and the MPP.
Yes, so they are the 2 leading parties, but there are other parties who also get coverage as and when they do something that's newsworthy. But you're right, these are 2 big parties trying to outsmart each other ahead of the election. And there are big things happening. So the contrast is interesting. So yes, there's NDC, MPP, and there are others, but the 2 parties are very different in terms of even their calendars, right? So as we speak, the opposition party has made it very clear they don't have time. So in 3 weeks' time, on the 13th of May, the NDC will be doing a primary to choose not just the presidential candidate, but to choose all their parliamentary candidates at once, on the same day. Now, the MPP's calendar is a mixed bag. In fact, it will take us equations to even figure out. But that's the first thing. So whilst the NDC and MPP are different from the others, they are different in terms of the dynamic within the two parties and what this election means for each of them, which we can explain later.
So currently, the NDC is settled. Before mid-May, they would have settled everything. They would have a flag bearer. They would have parliamentary candidates in both orphan and non-orphan constituencies. And they are even doing 276 because they've created a constituency in South. They want to elect a candidate hoping that the EC would put someone there or create a constituency properly so-called so that they can contest in that area. But the MPP order is rather a tall one, isn't it?
So MPP would then take 13 days after the NDC choose their candidates. This is when MPP will now open nominations for their presidential.
In June.
26th May, they open the nominations. The nominations last for a month, to about 24th June.
Yeah.
Then, depending on the number of candidates they get, they will do something they call a special delegates congress to whittle down the number to 5.
A super delegate.
So that will be in August. Because the real date they're looking at is November for their presidential, right? So NDC finishes in 13th May. MPP has 13 days after that to just open nominations, 1 month for the filing process. Then you have the August, if possible. So the August event is a possibility, right? The date you're looking for MPP is 4th November.
That's the main Congress to elect a flag bearer.
Because while the opposition party is very clear that they want to give their candidates visibility because they have a lot more work to do, because there's something called incumbency advantage, where if you launch a borehole project, you do anything, you get visibility. Yeah. So you can campaign without campaigning. Mm-hmm. The NDC doesn't have it that way, so they have to do theirs early. Now, the issue with the MPP is that you don't want to have... So this tends to happen when you have an incumbent party with a sitting president who's not going to be the candidate. There's always this tension between those who are saying, look, the president is one, let all the attention be on him. Yeah. Versus those who are saying, look, we need to market our candidate. So that back and forth arrived at a compromise, 4th November, which is 6 months after the opposition party does theirs. All right? Then you're going to have the parliamentary one, which is even more interesting. So in the NDC's case, the parliamentary is all on the same day. For the MPP, again, they've given a long date. They're going to open nominations somewhere around June. And they're going to have the orphan constituencies, as you call them.
So before you even go to Parliament, so just to be sure, the NPP's Congress would be divided in 2 parts if the candidates or aspirants are more than 5.
Yes.
If they are more than 5, the special one is happening on the 26th of August.
Yes.
If you are a member of the NPP and you qualify, and it's just a few people who would be...
Yes, so that's a good point. So there's a difference between the people who vote here and those who vote here. This is a bigger electoral college. This is huge.
So these people whittle down the figure to 5. And they learned this lesson from 2007, where they had 17 candidates running. And they went to Congress and decided, listen, we had 17 people on the ballot paper. It didn't make any sense. Henceforth, if there is a number more than 5, we would put it to a special delegate known as the Super Delegates Congress.
Yes.
They would then bring everything down to 5. And that's a very smaller number. I don't know what you think of that. Is that even fair that you make a smaller electoral college decide for a bigger electoral college?
I think the political parties learn from their history. And don't forget that in 2007, this was the first time the MPP had, as a party, was in power for a long time. So a lot of things were not clear. And the lessons they learned from the division, the unwieldiness of that whole process arrived at this. Mm-hmm. It makes sense, right? If you are strong on the ground, you definitely should be able to be in the top 5. This is the assumption. Although you could argue that the people here are so many, this is more national. So if the people here are not up to 30,000, whatever small number you have, 2,000, whatever number, it could disadvantage candidates who are truly on the ground. Be that as it may, is for convenience and economy and also party
But
unity.
my point is that we say that votes are bought. We want to widen the net so that you cannot buy. I remember when NDC said, let every card-bearing member of the party vote. They said that it is because we don't want anybody to buy votes. This smaller electoral college can be bought, quote and unquote. But this bigger electoral college cannot be bought. I think that should be the fair assumption. So if you want to really throw it to the people...
I don't want to frame it that way. For me, every party has their internal mechanisms for deciding on how to select. So, look, they nominate... What about vetting processes? Then you could also say a vetting process, because a vetting process can disqualify you.
Yeah, very
when you run for an election, they can say, you don't qualify. So you don't even get on the ballot. That's so true. These are part of processes. You can say this is like an extended vetting to choose 5. That makes sense.
Okay, so that again, that's the party deciding, and they do that. So I think in the US, they do the caucuses before the main thing. So people keep falling apart. Then they go to the parliamentary and then they have again a long calendar they are working with.
I'm going to walk you through the primaries calendar for the parliamentary. It's very interesting. So open nominations on 16 June. All right. So whilst they are opening the nominations for presidential on 24th May, the so-called orphan constituencies have theirs on the 16th of June. Again, they give 1 month, so up to 14th July. So you have a whole month where there are 137 MPs. I think one is dead, so 136. So the 137 that NDC has, they will open nominations there.
Over there.
And then they will do elections between 1st August to 2nd December, right? So within the period they'll be doing their staggered primaries for orphan constituencies, they would hold their special delegates conference within that period, and also hold their national 4th November main presidential primary within that window.
That same period, okay.
Then, because they don't want to threaten the unity in Parliament, all sitting MPs will have a special treatment. So what they'll do is that they're going to say, for constituencies with sitting MPs, they'll be given the courtesy of knowing who the flag bearer would be in November, and then on the 20th of December, they now open nominations for the constituencies that have sitting MPs. And then they allow for just 2 weeks. So by 4th January, they would know who the candidates are. Then they vote on the 24th of February. So giving essentially candidates less than a year to campaign between 24th February and the election in December.
Again, because they don't want to shake up the system in Parliament. This is a very complex Parliament they have. Every member there matters. So give them as much room and laxity as you can so that they stay into February so that you don't disturb their backyard. I don't know how the party is going to manage, though. If I'm an incumbent MP, we have been told that there's no contest, and yet there's a guy who is running around campaigning. I don't know how they're going to really deal with that, because they're trying to protect their MPs even though they say they are not. But that may also come at a disadvantage.
And it's a very good point. It's back to the tension between governance and politicking. So there's one president, but there's going to be a candidate who is not the president. Attention is on the president to deliver what he promised, but they also need to help the guy who's going to take over, in their view, to campaign. It's the same thing.
Okay.
You don't want to disorganize Parliament with your elections. So let the 136 stay in Parliament, focus on the work, pass the bills, give them the courtesy of knowing who the candidate will be, and then also shorten the time and the amount of money they spend. Now, the other thing you don't know is that the longer an election takes, it's like a project. The longer a building project takes, the more money it costs. So in a sense, the opposition party's plan is more sensible. One day, 13th May, Asemasa. But MPP is going to start from 26th May all the way to 24th February.
The budget is not
It's a war of attrition. It can wear people out. Some would argue that it can prepare them for the main fight. But because our internal politics are so tight and competitive, I feel it's going to wear some of the candidates out. By the time they have to actually campaign from June, July, August 2024, spend all their money.
So what matters is that next month, NDC would have chosen a flag bearer parliamentary candidate in 276 constituencies. MPP would have still been waiting to start, and it is going to be a process that has been staggered, like Bernard has explained. So by November, quarter, we should have a flag bearer for the NPPs. Then we know who replaces Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, by which time he may become lame duck. Then in February next year, and I don't know why they chose 24th February of all dates.
It's because it's a very interesting date.
I mean, for NPP to choose 24th February anyway, let me leave it.
For those who don't know, 24th February is the day Nkrumah was overthrown. So, and a lot of of course, the opposition to Nkrumah was the antecedent of the MPP, the UGCC, and the United Party. So, but these are parliamentary candidates.
It's not related.
So it's not, I don't know.
Don't mind me, I'm just going on a different time. So that's what happened. By 24th February 2024, we would have seen who is the NPP parliamentary candidate for which constituencies. And then we start looking at the bigger election. But when we come back into the Situation Room, we're going to look at what happens with the NDC's internal flag bearer race. 3 people running for that position: John Mahama, Kojo Bonso, Dr. Kwabena Dufo. And then NPP, there are 9 or 10 of them seeking to be the flag bearer. We'll do an in-depth analysis of candidate by candidate on the Situation Room here on Citi TV.
Mothers go above and beyond to give us 5 times the love. Tell us how much your mom means to you and let's HD Plus make it feel like 5 times the star this Mother's Day. From 13th April to 1st May 2023, record and send a 30-second video about how amazing your mom is. Feel it to the WhatsApp number 020-0044-420. Your video will compete with other entries to win one of the 65-inch NASCO flat screen TVs with an HD Plus model for mom. HD Plus, the Feely experience.
You are in the Situation Room on City TV. We are doing in-depth analysis of all political stories for you ahead of election 2024 and beyond. As we always do for you, it's your world, and we bring it to you hot and quick. My name is Umaru Sanda. We're here with Bernard Avle. Bernard, we are looking at the NDC now. It appears that they've got everything sorted out. They have already vetted their candidates. They are busily campaigning. Mahama is here. Walk us through who is running for what in the NDC now.
First thing I'll say before we do that is, when you study the two main political parties, they are very different, yet they are very similar. So there are similarities more in governance, but there are differences in the internal politics. So for example, the first thing you observe is that for most presidential primaries, NDC always has fewer candidates than MPP, all the time.
Whether they're in government or not.
They don't, in fact, then 2019 was an aberration where they had all those. So usually, it's 2 or 3 people. Mills, Kwesi Botre, Spiogabra Mills, Nana Konedo Mills. It's always a few people, which could be because of their antecedent, the Swedo Declaration, Rawlings anoints Mills.
One leader.
So they don't seem to tolerate a lot of dissension. When they decide that they want to go for election, and usually the person who wins by over 90%. That's the first thing you notice. And if you look at this field that you are talking about, this field is much smaller. It's probably one of the smallest fields you've had in a long time, just 3, right? 2019, there were 6 or 7. So this is the first thing to notice. MPP will always have a lot more people. They claim it's because they are more democratic. Mm-hmm. And particularly when NDC is in opposition, this is what you get. Former President John Dramani Mahama, former Kumasi Metropolitan Chief Executive Kojo Bonsu, former Governor and Rawlings, former Finance Minister and the Mills, business mogul Dr. Konrad Bufo. These are the 3
Now, if you
faces.
look at, since you're giving the history, so it's almost, even this number is big. If you compare Mills, Konedu, they were just 2.
Yeah, I mean,
in that contest, Spiogabra, withdrew to let Nana Konedu, and I remember vividly how he did the withdrawal in the house of Jerry Rawlings, whose wife was now running in that election. So we had 2 there. Again, 97% for Mills. Konedu did badly, 3%. This time around, we have 3 people going, lower than the last figure. Would it make any difference?
It would not, because usually in the previous election you referred to, there were what you would call power blocks that were being contested. So the Rawlings block, the Mills block. Then you have the former Mills people, the Mahama people. Mm-hmm. But now it's like there's only Mahama.
It's only Mahama.
So that's the first thing to notice. Now, the power centers around personalities in our politics. And so John Mahama is the front runner.
Let's look at it.
But there's a difference though. Mm-hmm. So one of the reasons why in NDC the front runner usually wins well is also a question of resources, right? But for the first time, you have a candidate who is a man of means. Right, Dr. Konrad Bufo is a very wealthy man.
So I want us to do candidate. So go to Mahama next.
All right. So you want to.
So let's do Mahama and then move on to the other candidates.
I mean, look, Mahama has dominated Ghana's political scene since my days in university. All right. So as communication minister, before he then became the running mate, which was much later, because NDC are trying Martin Amadu, they are trying Mohammed Mumuni before he came along. So he's always been known to have the gift of the gab, very well liked, very affable guy. And since he became vice president, his stock has risen. 2013, came into power after Mills dies, wins that election in 2012, Then he rules to 2016 and loses as sitting president, quite unprecedented. Easily the front runner.
But won in 3 months of campaign in 2012.
Yes.
Also,
so
again,
I don't think there's much to be said here.
Yeah.
I do not think the delegates that I have spoken to and the people you talk to in the NDC are in the mood for the kind of change, because they feel like he has an unfinished business, and they also feel like in opposition it's not the time for experimentation and that type of thing. They feel he's well marketed enough, and they know what he can do, right?
So give it to him.
Yes, and they're also saying that because we are in an economic crisis, you need somebody with experience. So this is the message they are selling.
Okay.
So, and it seems to me as if a lot of the influential people in the party have agreed that he's going to take it.
Okay.
Kojo Bonsu is an interesting one. Ashanti region is going to be interesting in this election because they have they've always been interested in an election, but there's a feeling that there's an Ashanti equation somewhere that if NDC does well in Ashanti, because they suspect that there could be some issues in MPP where turnout for MPP will be lower, so that if you get a good candidate or a supporting candidate from the Ashanti region, it would help the NDC's numbers, because NDC usually does above a certain 22% or so to win an election. So two Ashantis have thrown their hats in the ring. Kojo Bonsu, former mayor of Kumasi, and then Dr. Kwabena Dufo. Kojo Bonsu is interesting because his tenure as mayor ended a bit on a sour note because of some issues with Menchia, but he's patched up with them. A lot of people credit him for KJTR market. He's a known figure, he's liked. So something I'll say, usually when somebody runs against the front runner, Spiogabra, their votes get whittled down, they get ostracized. But Alabi lost to Mahama, he's still part of the group. I still think even if this guy loses, he's still part of the center. He's not seen as some traitor type. That tells you that there's only one center of power. In previous elections, it was either Obed or Rawlings, Mills, Rawlings. So those fights led to wars of attrition. I don't really see that for this guy. But for
before you go to Kwabena, so this guy was appointed by the guy he wants to remove.
Yeah, but that doesn't matter.
It's not a big deal?
We've seen that in many contests.
I mean, but except that this guy made you a mayor, which is like a lower tier compared to even if you were a minister. How dare you contest him?
Look,
democracy allows that, I know. But in terms of political might, wealth, it's a mystery.
I think he's just hedging his bets. I think he just wants to show that he's available and that if possibly there's something in future that they want
because
to
I'm looking at whether he's had a position in the past in the party that he's known. Mahama has done MP before. Kwabena Dufo has been governor.
Mayor of Kumasi.
Mayor of Kumasi.
It's a big job.
Okay, let's go to the next candidate.
The one that I feel is interesting is two things, and we should look at the polls later. The reason it's interesting is, as I said, in the past, a lot of the people have contested the front runners haven't had much means. This guy has the means. That's number one. Number two, you're seeing some former Mills people coalesce around him. Rojo Metal Nuno. You see
Solomon Kansa.
You see
initially
Baba Kamara was around that group. I even saw Fritz Bafo. Right?
Yeah.
So you see people who have been close to power coalesce around him. For what that's worth. We don't know how central they are in the NDC now. So that's what makes it interesting. The fact that he has money and the fact that he has some experienced people around him. But I still feel like when you look at the way the NDC thinks, and if you look at the elections in the past, there's a way you can gauge the mood of a party. And he's also much older. So it also works against him.
The money part, though, Bernard, I don't know if I should disagree with you, and I'm going to disagree with you. His bank is not his bank anymore. That would have been the cash cow. We do know that his media conglomerate is struggling. This is public knowledge. How dare you say this guy has money to run against someone who's been president and vice president? Even if you put John Mahama's S. Gracia as MP for Bole Bamboy between 1996 and 2000 and 2004, it defeats this guy completely. His bank is taken, his media conglomerate is gone. I mean, money.
Well, I think that's why you and I don't have a lot of money. Okay. Because we obviously don't understand money that well. What I'm telling you is that for example, his message, okay? So take today's Informer newspaper. His message has been very clear. He's talking about helping party people. In the Informer today, they reported that he said he was going to pay party executives. So he's bringing a financial. So his campaign is hinged on two things.
Okay.
He says the economy is shattered. I was former governor, former Bank of Ghana, I was former Minister of Finance, so I can fix the economy. But he's also saying that I can rearrange the personal economics of people who volunteer and work for the party. I'll build party offices for you. So he's talking on the basis that he knows he has finances.
Okay. Okay.
Now, we don't want to talk about people's personal wealth without evidence, but I'm saying to you that to own the level of business entities he owned, the fact that his bank has collapsed, his insurance company is still working.
Okay.
There are other businesses that are still running. So everybody knows that Dr. Dufour is a man of means. So I'm saying that these are the two factors.
Okay.
The fact that he has some experienced people around him, and the fact that he does have money to stage a campaign. You've seen his billboards.
Yeah.
So it means that it may be different. But I'm saying that, look, it's very clear there's only one winner here.
Okay. So it looks obvious, but the percentage, does the percentage matter even in this race?
Well, let's
look at what
that's a
happened
good
the last
question.
time.
So in 2019, this was what happened. This is the current president. At the time, he was the president who had lost in 2016.
Yes.
And then he was the former president.
Seeking the re-election.
And again, the mood of the party was for him. 95%. And 95% in a field of 7 is statistically like a shellacking. All right? Professor Joshua Labi, less than 2%. The speaker, at the time he was a minority leader, 1%. The gentleman who was supposed to be the Alan
who had
to
done
Mills.
this before, yes.
So Alan Nanado,
Yeah.
Spio, Mills.
Mills.
Look at where he is. He didn't even get 1%. So Gusitano as well. So the NDC is very clear on who they want. And I don't think, and so my point is that if for 7 candidates, he had 95, and this is when NDC had just lost power and they were bruised. Now they smell blood. He's going to get much higher than this.
So you don't even see, so these people, 6 of them, struggled to raise 5% of the votes. 2 people going against him, they may be struggling to raise...
Except, of course, the reasons I give, because the third candidate has money.
Yes.
It's possible.
Okay.
Yeah. And the other thing to notice is that, so this is the gentleman who picked the forms for him. So it tells you that they sort of patched up. This guy is still...
But while you are looking at money, look at experience. Alabi's experience, Greater Accra Regional Minister, has been involved in NDC things for many years.
Yeah.
Bagbin has been MP since forever.
Yeah.
Experience is there. He should have a constituency. I mean, he was minority leader, majority leader. He has constituency. Guzi Tano was the guy that was, in fact, there was even rumor that Mills lost 2000 because Guzi Tano looked like Jerry Rawlings and people decided, I mean, all of those things. Spio Gabra has been doing this thing for like forever. He's been trying to be flag bearer. Sly Mensah has been MP before, has been at NHIS. So all of these people put together, Nuruddin may be the only guy, businessman who may not be very popular politically. Yeah. If all of them, with all the experience and maybe small money, could still fail to make 5%, I don't know how Dr. Kwame Dufour is really, unless of course, like the theory you've given, the candidate, the party decided that we are giving it to this guy, we don't care what happens.
The thing about political parties, in the little experience I have, is that political parties are not looking for who is experienced. They are not looking for who can do the work. They are looking for who can win the election. That's how they think.
That's what matters.
Delegates don't say, this guy has 10 years of experience at the World Bank. He's great. No, can he win the election? And how do they assess that? Has he been marketed well enough? Can he campaign? And then can he bring resources? They don't think about all the things around, oh, he's done. No, which is why all these guys didn't get anything. All right. Now, I expect this similar kind of numbers here. The mitigating factor being that Dufour's team seemed to have a bit more resources, but I don't see anything beyond a Mahama over 90-something%.
That's very interesting. Let's stay with Spio Gabra. He just diminished. Is that the final nail in his coffin? Because the performance here was not good, and it appears he's no more interested in the NDC race. He has not even expressed any interest. Meanwhile, he used to say it was Spio's time. Spio's time expired.
I don't know whether you are asking me a question or you are
I'm just looking at how he disappeared.
No, I mean, because, the thing is that eras change, times change, right? So, and I feel like the way Spio's the whole issue about Mills's health and how it was framed as if he was the one who put the
Going
issue
against
out.
him.
It damaged him a lot. And then he was a minister under Mahama, right? But he's never really quite been the same again. And I think he has other priorities now.
What happens to Joshua Alabi? You were the second in the race. Now you are the guy who went to pick the forms for the guy who won the last time. Is it an indication that, oh, I've given up? Or when I join him, there are chances for me in the future? How do you read it?
You see, politicians are not foolish. So they know. If you get 1.5% after traveling around the country 6 times, spending all your savings, I mean, if you are his wife, what will you tell him to do? That he should continue?
You mean, so if I was Professor Goski, what would I say?
You know, join the winning team. Look, the mood of the party, they are not interested in, you do UPSA, you are a good guy. So come and help us win the election, and then we'll look for something for you.
And whenever we have a big lecture, we do it at UPSA,
yes.
We credit you. And
like
then
we did one today.
Yeah, today.
Yeah, and in fact, to be fair, I mean, I went to UPSA today, and when you look at the place, it's clear that there is a brain behind what has happened there. So he's obviously a very well-respected member of the NDC. And I think the fact that he picked the forms is a signal that the party's leaders, or the party, they want to give Mahama a chance to come back to redeem himself because he has only one term. Later on, we'll talk about what happens post-Mahama if he even wins. But that's a different equation. So I'm saying that it's very clear he's going to win. The polls we've looked at suggest that Mahama is in the lead. So for both people who are NDC supporters and even people who are not NDC supporters, his visibility is very, very much ahead of the other candidates. So I think it's almost a foregone conclusion. The real excitement is in the MPP race, Umaru.
Let's look at the people who are going against him again, the current people who are running. And if you look at the next slide.
Okay.
And walk us through that one.
No, okay.
This is what the pollsters have been saying in relation to who is running for what.
So there was a poll that was done. One was done in January, the other was done in April. And they asked people who they preferred to lead the NDC. Now, this was for people who said they were NDC supporters, right? Now, I need to show you this first before I come to this. So in this one, sorry, I think there was one, in the general one, there was a general one that they asked all supporters, all respondents. Mahama had about 77%.
So that's whether MPP or NDC?
Yes, and then Dr. Dufo had about 17%, and then Kojobonsu had about 3%. That was for both MPP and NDC. But when they disaggregated and just brought out NDC supporters, same question, overwhelmingly, similar number to what you had for the previous election. So the insight here is that among NDC supporting people, they think Mahama is the person to lead them into the next election. So the numbers that you're seeing for Amadu for 4% and Kojobonsu 3% is very small.
So it's simply looking like what we are predicting it to look like.
I mean, to be fair, two caveats. This is not for delegates. This is for people who were polled by Global Info Analytics in 80 constituencies and who said that they support NDC. So they may not even be delegates. So this is the feeling around this sample of voters who say they support the NDC, who may not even vote in the primaries.
Okay.
Right? But so it's a dipstick into popularity. It's like a popularity test. So the point is that Mahama is the overwhelming leader in that space.
Well, this is the Situation Room on City TV. We are just trying to help you make sense of how it's looking like, how the picture is looking like, the NDC side of things. We'll be delving into the NPP next. But, of course, we are looking at who is doing what in which area. The campaign trail, though, is heated. John Mahama is all over the place. He's campaigning. He's sending a message that he doesn't want to feel like he has said this to Ghanaians. He said people keep giving him stones wherever he goes to. How are the other people doing?
You see, the other insight from your question comes back to why I think he's going to win. If you see, the message he's putting across is a national message. So he has an election on 13 May. But he's saying...
He's speaking beyond the...
he's not even telling people that vote for me, I'm better than Dufo or Kojobonsu. He's telling people that when I come back, I will continue to abandon projects that Akufo-Addo abandoned. I'm going to cut ex gratia. Do you get it? He is taking on the president and the presumptive MPP candidate. And so he's looking at December 2024. That tells you that the people crafting his message know that this is a foregone conclusion.
If I asked you to give me a percentage that you thought he would win by, do you have any idea?
No, I don't think he'll get below 93%. That's what I'm saying. Like this figure and the figure for the previous election, if he gets below 90%, I'll be surprised.
I'm thinking he'll make beyond 95%, but let's see what happens. This is the Situation Room on City TV. We'll be back to talk about the New Patriotic Party. The pool there, or the crowd there, is larger than what the NDC has on offer, and the Congress is coming up November, the latest. We'll talk about the candidates, their strengths, their weaknesses, and who we think may be leading the pack if it comes to it, plus who will be at the back.
Another season of the City FM Family Consecration is here again. Your family radio station invites you to the 2023 edition of the Family Consecration Service. Let's hold ourselves in readiness as we prepare for a time of divine renewal, visitation, and restoration for our families and loved ones. Join us on Monday, 1st of May 2023 at the Winners Chapel, Ghana, Accra, near the OA Bus Terminal Circle, as we intercede and commit our families to God. It's going to be a 6-hour intense moment of prayer time for families from 6 a.m. till 12 noon. Come and let us reinforce the resurrection power of Christ, which ensures our forgiveness, healing, business breakthroughs and open doors, sound and prosperous marriages, divine blessings in career and destiny fulfillment over our families. There will also be a time for the renewal of vows for married couples. The 2023 Family Consecration Service is powered by 97.3 CDFM with support from City TV. As always, the family that prays together stays together.
His favor be upon you.
This is the Situation Room on City TV, and we are gauging very closely the campaign trail as we look at the leading political parties. Key dates in our minds: 13th May, NDC goes to polls, MPP, anything from August to November to February. So Umaru, Sanda, those are the key differences. NDC, there's 1 day for everybody. MPP is staggered. NDC race, our analysis shows that Mahama is likely to win. MPP,
that's where that's where the issues would become a bit more scattered, and you have to do a lot of analysis. Because, Bernard, even though we've had a vice president a number of times run for a flag bearership of their party, this one is different. And so that makes it a bit more of a complex discussion. And again, the party says it wants to break the 8. Who is it going to use to break the 8? They have, I think officially we have like 9 or 10 people who are running for this position.
Yes.
Let's quickly glance through who are the people for the MPP.
All right, very enough. So Umaru, Sanda, yes, so you are right. Of course, the vice president has not come out to officially declare, but 3 weeks ago, he made a post on Facebook, and he says it is possible. And in our era, the number of people who retweeted it tells you that it was a coded message.
And the party member who did artworks and were sharing it is
so possible. We know that he's interested, and for many people, he is the presumptive front runner. We would come and discuss it later. So this is Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, and I'm sure we'll come back to the issue of how different he is from Aliu.
Yeah. So his campaigners say BMW, Bawumia must win. That's what. You remember during Mills's time, there was game, get Atta Mills elected.
Okay.
Then there was Fonka, Friends of Nana Akufo-Addo. So his people are BMW. Bawumia must win.
Bawumia must win. Amazing. And now then the Alan Kojo Martin, who ran against Akufo-Addo thrice and votes whittled down from 33% to 19% to less than 5%. He's seen by supporters as the person whose time it is, because they are using the same equation that Eduwahin came, Kufuor came. Kufuor came, Akufo-Addo came. Akufo-Addo came, Alan must come. And in all these cases, the person who was second to the first took over. So in that sequence, it's Alan's turn, right? So this is what Alan supporters are saying. And in fact, on the N1, I saw a billboard today, which was a new billboard. The original billboard was Alan Cash for president, jobs for the people, cash for the people. This week is a different billboard with this photo, and now he's saying, time as so. It drew so. Right? So that's the narrative, right?
It is his time.
Yes. And so the message for Alan's people is that he's basically bid his time. He lost to Akufo-Addo. He helped him. He became trade minister. He's cooperated. Now it's his turn. If there's a fair fight, he will win. That's what they are saying. All right. So then, if you were talking to me a year ago, he wouldn't have even been on the picture.
In fact, before you even bring Kennedy upon, I just remember something. Alan Cash.
All right. So let me go back there.
Yeah, I think Alan Cash was perhaps, or he ran the most popular campaign in 2007.
Yes.
The songs he had.
Yes.
But the NPP decided that no, despite everything, we're going to give it to Nana Akufo-Addo. Alan Cash was popular everywhere in the market. His name was Alan Cash.
So at the time, the presumption was that he was President Kufuor's preferred candidate.
And the
he was
party
a trade
didn't
minister.
like that.
But there was a vice president whose people also thought he ought to succeed the president. But then there was also the Akufo-Addo people who said he lost to Kufuor in 98.
So it is his time.
And became foreign minister and later on attorney general and helped Kufuor to govern. And in terms of experience, Akufo-Addo and Kufuor, you can say, are at par. So Akufo-Addo bid his time and came in 2007. And in fact, an inside there, after the first round, Akufo-Addo got 47%, Alan got 33%. It was very clear that most of the others were going to support Akufo-Addo. Because there was this feeling that Alan Chamartin was unfairly favored by the castle, as they called it.
Okay.
So they are making the same argument. That
it was Akufo-Addo's time, it is now Alan's time.
So we have cooperated, so please, it's our time.
Even though I hear other critics of his campaign say he contested Nana Addo anyway. If he had waited, then you could say it is his time. But again, that's what critics are saying. Let's move on to the next person.
This gentleman is interesting because a year ago, we didn't even know he was interested in the race. By some, I don't know whether it was somebody provoked him in an interview or whatever, but he basically says that. In fact, today in the news, there are two stories. He says, people say I can't be president because I don't speak big English. He is seen as the outsider, populist message. He's a man of wealth as well.
The Donald Trump.
He uses media very effectively. The polls is showing that he is doing very, very well. He has now 20% in the poll, right? Of course, again, this is for general electorate, not necessarily delegates. But his trajectory has been phenomenal from last year till now.
For a stranger.
So they call him. Now, some people say he's trying to get enough votes to bargain. And if we see the message, I've seen some of his campaigns. He's a very effective communicator. He's very media savvy. And he has money. Right, so
and he appears as if he's a maverick, which is
yes.
again
So
something
and it's very interesting. You never hear him in Parliament, except when media interviews him or when he's chairing committee. So you don't see him arguing on the floor, but he's very influential in Parliament as well. That's Kennedy Ajepong.
Okay.
So you can say these are the three front runners. I'm sure the others.
You have decided. You have decided for you. These are the three.
Based on my interactions with people on the ground, these are the three. But I've interviewed some of these people who are saying to me that, Bernard, you are mistaken. And I'm happy to be corrected.
Okay.
So former energy minister, New York banker, fell out with the Akufo-Addo team when he was replaced by Peter Amewu. Some say over the PDS deal, likes wearing a bow tie, very eloquent guy from Odumase Krobo. We wait to see what he would do in the polls. He's not doing that well in the polls we've seen. Again, this gentleman is also a bit like Spiel. Very highly regarded in the early Kufuor years. One of the offensive brains, considered for finance before he went to trade.
He did
NEPAD. For some reason, we don't hear much about him.
I call him the Edward Mahama of our flagbearer contest. He's always been in the race.
This guy is interesting because I've interviewed him, and he's again, I said something about the Ashanti point when it came to the NDC, where Dufour and Kojo Bonsu. So you see a lot of Ashantis in the race. Let's just go back here, right? So the issue with MPP is, apart from this man, this gentleman, he's Ashanti Fanti. His dad is Ashanti, his mother is Fanti. But Alan Chemati is considered Ashanti, right? His father was former KCC, very highly respected friend of Kufuor. He ran the Kumasi Cultural Center. So you can say he's an Ashanti elite. Okay. And Kennedy lived in Kumasi. In fact, in an interview he did, he showed his house that he was born in Bantama. He identifies with the poverty that started. So even though he's from Asin, and again, Asin itself has close ties with Ashanti. Asin is the borderline between Fanti and Asante. So even though he is central, and it's very interesting, in his message, he plays the Fanti also very well. So I hear him in the central region talking about why should people say that Bawumia, the Northerners, deserve a chance? Because the Fantis have always helped the MPP. They've never had an MPP candidate. So he pushes his central region side. But when he's in Kumasi and you listen to him, he's true blue Kumasi. He talks about where he was born, the house he lived in. In fact, there was an interview he was coming to do. He showed the very old house and some charcoal cellar and things. We're so excited that somebody from here can become this. So he can say Kwesi Ashanti, all right? And Wache Jaku as well. Again, Odumase Krobo in terms of his where he's born and where he lives. But his father is an Ashanti, all right?
But even Krobos also have a history with the NPP, if you look at the... Yeah.
So I'm just trying to point out to you that there's a lot... Now, the reason I bring this Ashanti point is, this guy, former MP for Ofinso, Ashanti guy. Now, when I interviewed the Greek minister, we spent a bit of time talking about his father, Bafo Seakutu, and he says, look, my father is really one of the people whose work led to MPP's strength. National Liberation Movement, okay? They were the Matimi people initially, fought for cocoa. If I was the linguist of the Ashanti Kingdom, a cocoa farmer. His son, Minister for Agric, one of Akufo-Addo's closest confidants, now resigned to contest. And in the conversation, he says, look, I was asking about the influence of Menchia, and he says, I'm from Menchia. His brother is in Menchia. So he's touting his Menchia roots. Because
so his closeness to Ashanti.
Yes, and so if the famous Rui Akoto lectures that the lawyers celebrate, is his father who sort of moved.
The linguist who is being talked about.
So he is an interesting one. For what it's worth, he started campaigning much earlier, but he's sort of, he feels that he has a chance. This is the...
Former...
Yes, he's non-Ashanti. Former... Again, I can say his stock seems to have fallen a bit. When he was appointed Deputy Attorney General under Kufuor, he was one of the most fascinating people to talk to. Very respected lawyer, rose to become Deputy Speaker. I mean, if you listen to Jogate, and in fact, he and his wife, very respected. For some reason, I don't know whether it is alleged Kufuor affiliation, but for some reason, he's not had a smooth ride in the MPP. And the fact that he was railway minister, all right? I mean, if you look at Jogate, former speaker, for his stature, you are looking at a higher position, right? Foreign minister or something. So I think that's part of his problem. And
even in the second term, he was dropped completely from the government. So things didn't look that.
And in
good.
fact, even in his election against the NDC doctor,
he
even had a harder time.
Yes, he did.
And don't forget, Sekendi Takrady is a strong MPP place. So MPP is not just Ashanti and Central. Sekendi Takrady is one of the strong. So he's an elite MPP person, but for some reason, he's not getting that visibility. You've interviewed him more often. I don't know what...
I have. I mean, so he believes again that the MPP, even though we say UP Dankwa tradition, and we mentioned Dombo, he believes that the Fanti have played so much a role in the formation of the NPP. I mean, take it way back.
Pagrant.
Yes. So all these people believe that it is their time. The Fantis now have to have a stake in the MPP. If they say EAG party, and I'm referring to the Ashanti people saying we are collecting our party, then the Fantis have a better claim to the collection of the party because they have been involved in the
But when you interview him, how confident is he? Because I notice he talks to you quite often. Is he confident that he's making any inroads?
He is very confident, and you see, even when he was dropped from the government, he decided that he's going to damn all the consequences and he's going to go the full haul. He's busy in Parliament doing the work for the party that is expected of him. He doesn't look bitter. I mean, someone would say, oh, because he's been dropped, he should get angry and just forget. But whenever they need any crucial votes, he's there to
And he's also quite influential. So a lot of times when there are issues in Parliament, you see that he's
a legal guy.
Yes,
I mean, if he's a former
respected.
Attorney General, how many former Attorney Generals do we have in Parliament? His counterpart may be, I'm not even sure that would be a fair comparison because he rose to be Deputy Speaker.
Yes.
So Ayine may not even be a fair comparison. Ayine was Deputy AG. He was AG.
So so is he campaigning?
He is campaigning. He's busy on the grounds. He's always sharing on social media the work he's doing, which places he has gone to. And interestingly, when the president was giving the state awards, he was one of the
other thing you say is that
because he helped out with the ETLOS case.
Yeah,
and that's very crucial.
And Jogate's work in Ghana politics and MPP cannot be forgotten. So even if he doesn't do well, he will still be important for the MPP for as long as the party is, as long as he's alive, because of the work he's done.
I see him like Papa Osuan Kuma. That's the kind of person I see in him. But let's go to the next.
So there is he's the non-Ashanti in the thing I was trying to. This guy is also interesting. Again, I've had interviews with him.
Yeah, recently.
An engineer. If you ask me personally, in terms of eloquence and in terms of clarity of thoughts, he's very high up there. Because he understands what he wants to do. I think it's because he's an engineer with a media training. He's very articulate and very concise. So when you talk to Amadu Japan for 10 minutes, you know what he's trying to say. And it's very clear what he wants to solve. The problem, though, is in Ghana, it's like, what has he done? It's like he was Kufuor's spokesperson. People think that, what does that mean? But I remember doing a program with engineers who said we need more engineers in politics. So I think his route could be professional bodies, right? Where you have people who are saying, look, we've tried all these lawyers and all these economists, they are not helping us. Let's bring in a doer. We don't know if he has that much time and resources. But if you ask me in terms of a quality person, this guy is a quality person.
He's strong. Okay, let's look at it.
And of course, his problems as general secretary didn't help him.
I think because they got him back on the campaign in 2020, it appears that has been forgotten. But
but he always leads with that in the interviews. Yeah. And of course, Adanimo, former MP, always there or thereabouts, never really gets there.
But Adanimo did well when they had that electoral college of 2010.
Yes.
He managed to be part of the top 5.
Yeah.
So it means that he's not someone we should be playing with, but except that 2014 that was, not 2010, 2014. So, but then he kept running. He was here on face-to-face recently, and he said he still has power and energy.
As things stand, based on the polls we've seen, again, this is polls of 80 constituencies, about almost 5,000 respondents. For people who say they vote for MPP, for this is all voters. This is including NDC supporters, floating voters, and then MPP supporters. Alan Chamating, this poll was taken 13th April, all right? Alan is in the lead as a general view for those who, all the voters who were polled. Kennedy, again, January is the blue, April is the red. So look at how Kennedy has risen from 4 to 23. And then there's a lot of indecision here because people have not declared. So this is a very early dipstick, all right? But what you should look out for is this one. When you come to only MPP voters, I don't know if I have this, If you came to only MPP voters, that was going to be different because that one, Bawumia then goes a bit higher and Alan comes down. So I was going to say that it's very similar to the Mahama thing in a way that...
So internally...
Somehow, when you talk to people who are in the MPP, so I'll say Alan is very popular in the country. But I think Bawumia is more popular in the MPP.
Does that surprise you? Bawumia burst on the scene. He was brought in 2007, 2008. We remember all the fight about now offering him. Who is he? Why is Nanado bringing this guy? When we had other people being mentioned at the time, Halima Mahama and the rest.
Yeah.
So they lost the 2008 election.
Yeah.
But 2012, he became the star boy of the MPP. And 2016, he and his spouse, it's almost like they were the ones running the campaign. Yeah. So internally, MPP would think the same way that NDC people are thinking for John Mahama. This is a guy who is this is a guy who has been fighting for us, and so he's the one who is supposed to go. But of course, Alan has a history and has been there before, so people would look at Alan and then they will start asking the question, should we go for the guy who has always been in the shadows, or should we go for this new guy who has just come, the whiskey?
I think that the difference between Bawumia and other vice presidents has been that in the 2016 election, he was almost the arrowhead of the campaign when it came to the economy, because there was a major economic crisis, emblematic or sort of epitomized by the energy crisis. So Bawumia was popular, and his rhetoric on the economy propelled the MPP with the middle classes, all right? So, and then he's also been a fairly popular vice president until recently with all the problems the MPP is facing. So he is not necessarily Aliu, where at the time, this was the first time MPP had come to power, and Aliu's gifts were not really highlighted in the Kufuor era. But Bawumia being an economist is an advantage, and being an arrowhead of a campaign is an advantage. So I feel like the MPP leaders, they are in a challenge, because they feel if they don't, and this is the view that if Bawumia does not become the candidate, it could send a different signal to voters from the north, which we can discuss later. So for now, these are the front runners, but things can change.
There's something that we have to look at. If we think, based on the analysis, Bawumia is going to lead the MPP, and we also think, based on the analysis, Mahama is going to lead the NDC. How is a Mahama and Bawumia contest going to look like nationally?
I think you're picking before time. I think, look, Sanda, I need to be very clear, because there's August. Let's see how the 5 goes. Let's see the percentages. Then before November, before we even start thinking about what I am clear with, NDC has 3 weeks to go. Bahama is going to win. But for MPP, I think we should wait.
It's too early, yes,
I think we should wait.
Call it.
We should wait till around August.
And we are going to wait till next week before we come back to bring you events from the Situation Room on Citi TV. This has been an exciting show. I mean, I was enjoying it. I'm sure you also enjoyed it from your home. Please, Citi TV is a dial that you should be on every Thursday at 3 p.m. as we bring you in-depth analysis, a window into Ghana's politics. My name is Umaru, Sanda, Amadu, and I'm doing this with Bernard Koku.
Thank you, Sanda.
Avle.
It's been a pleasure being on the show with you.
Thank you so much, Bernard. We'll be back next week, and we'll give you more here on Citi TV. It's your world.